Well, good morning, everybody, on this lovely Friday the 13th. We're lucky to be here,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You know what else?
It's 7:30.
Yeah!
I got it this time.
It's 7:30 and my butt's sore, 'cause I've been doing squats like Gina said. And even though I've sung it all before, hey, at least we didn't wake up dead.
Some mornings, though, you wonder, like,
Getting real close to it.
some days, yeah, not every day.
Well, I've come to the conclusion that squats are a pain in the butt. It's true.
Definitely. You're doing them right.
If you're doing them right, and we've been talking about squats this week, the importance of them, and how to do them right. It has been, I'm going to say, a game changer for me. Realizing that all this time, even when I'm doing squats, I've been leaning so far forward, I've been using my quads, and I thought squats were predominantly a quad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But leaning back over my heels a little bit has been engaging my glutes. I can feel it. I'm working them out. And I have been finding all sorts of ways I can do it throughout the day without having to set apart, oh, I have to do my squats now in 15 minutes of this nonsense.
Right, so it's the difference between doing squats and squatting as just one more movement that you do to get life done.
Yeah, so here's some places I've been squatting.
Oh, good. Get your children out of their homes.
Outlets. You know, outlets are low, and I found like a lot of times I would do outlets like this, but coming down and just taking the opportunity to do a squat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it, but our stereo is lower, so same thing, I have to squat to do it. The saddlebags on my motorcycle and the hook that I hang the helmet on my motorcycle are both low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always done that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, this.
Right.
Which is good stuff too, but it's an opportunity to get my saddlebags and do the thing, and come back up and use the glutes. But the main two areas that I have reclaimed a lot of time is, like you mentioned, the chairs. I mean, how often are we in a chair? So I'm getting up and out of the chair. I'm making it a conscious effort to get up the way you said, bringing the legs out a little bit. It's not easy, but I'm using my glutes. And then the other was the stairs.
Yeah.
When I'm going up the stairs, I realize that I pitch forward. I'm on the balls of my feet, so it's all quad work.
Yep, and gravity.
And gravity. Well, hopefully not gravity.
Right.
If it's gravity.
Momentum.
That's not a good thing.
Kind of leaning forward and...
Yeah, momentum. And so as I've been going up the stairs, I've been going up a little bit slower and more conscious of being back towards, not on my heels, because then you roll backwards, but more towards my heels.
Just elevating yourself up.
Right. And I've been and we have a lot of stairs in this house. And yesterday I was working on something in the attic, and I needed things from the basement. So that's 1, 2, 3 flights of stairs, and then back up, and every time I was making each step more conscious of where my placement was, and I was getting a workout. And I probably got in 40 or 50 squats yesterday without taking the time to do it. So now I'm done for the week.
Yep. Well, there's one more piece we should add to that. It's getting a squatty potty to that, because that is a really...
Yeah, we're going to talk about this
there.
off camera. I am not getting a squatty potty.
Why?
That's...
All right, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right, so.
All right, I'm off.
Squat over there.
I'm squatting.
Oh, all right. So we've been doing some preliminary, how to prepare for, how to get your squatting mechanisms online, I guess, and bring them more to your awareness, because it is a subtle thing, the shift between having your weight more on the front of your feet as opposed to having it back here. What's engaging when you're doing that, and that's kind of the first part of that, is just knowing where your center of gravity is relative to your feet. So we're going to start with that, but today we're going to do a little something different. We're going to come back to some Qigong stuff, but it's all using the motion of squatting to do these moves, which I thought would be a good way to wrap the week up, since that's why I'm assuming you're here. Well, let's just start with getting our forward bend. Doing our forward bend. So feet are parallel. I have mine a little bit wider than hip width here. And we're hinging again at the hips. So making sure your weight is back over your ankles and your heels. If you can, see if you can squeeze your quadriceps to bring your kneecaps up and then relax them. You want them in a relaxed state. This is a whole nother tricky thing that's easier to do if you're with somebody who knows what the heck you're talking about or looking in the mirror. But if you can get that, you can try that. And we're just going to fold forward at the hip. We're going to keep the back straight. So in the upright position, my rib cage is over the pelvis, my head is over my rib cage, and all of that line is staying as I'm moving forward. So I'm not moving anything out of that line as I'm bending forward. Just getting a nice stretch through the hamstrings, supporting the torso, so my abdominal muscles are engaged a little bit. I'm not sucking in my stomach so much as I'm just relaxing the rib cage and being aware of my torso supporting itself. And then just get a little side to side motion here, stretching out the gluteal muscles over the hips. And then pushing down through the heels and bringing yourself up. And then we can, again, just trying a little bit of a squat motion as we begin here. So again, my weight is back over my heels. And I'm going to keep my shins perpendicular. And then coming down into the forward bend. So the further down I come, in order to keep from this happening, I have to push my tailbone further out behind me. Just opening up the hips a bit here, and then pushing up. All right, so we got that? So that's what we're gonna bring into these next Qigong moves. So we're gonna start with wider horse stance here. Small squat. Hands facing each other, so nice visual of a chi ball between the hands. We'll just take some breaths here. Inhale. Exhale, keep the shoulders relaxed, arms soft, feet are rooted into the ground. So even though my feet are wider and my knees are slightly bent, my center of gravity is still back and between my feet here. Inhale and exhale. One more. And now we're going to come down a little bit lower and start to shift the weight from one side to the other and rotate the ball. So the foot that my weight is over, that's the hand that's on the top. So my right foot is here and my right hand is on top. And inhale back to center and exhale to the other side. So as we're in motion and we're shifting that weight, this is where you really want to pay attention to where your weight is, because it's very easy once you start moving and also transferring weight to one side or the other, you start to creep forward a little bit more onto the toes. So you can still keep your weight back, just being really aware of engaging the gluteal muscles. Thinking of that line coming right through your hip joints, and we're just trying to stay along that line and not drift forward. Connecting the motion with your lower abdomen, with your pelvis, your center of gravity, driving this motion. One more to each side. Inhale and exhale. And come back to center. And relax the arms. Come in a little bit wider. Not sure what this one is called, but it's a fun one to do. It's a really good kind of transfer of weight as you're moving your entire body. So I'm gonna turn my right foot out slightly just to make this movement a little easier on my knees. And I'm gonna sink down, and the hand is going to stay with the palm facing forward. Inhale and exhale. And again, I'm shifting my weight from side to side. I'm coming down nice and slow so I can be aware of, again, keeping the weight more over the back of my feet. You see, I can lift my toes here, which tells me that I'm not putting all of my force on the front of my leg and on my toes. So just transferring that center of mass from one foot to the other, controlling it all with the lower body. One more time around. And then come the other way. Nice breath in. And exhale. And come down. And stand up, relax, and then bring the foot in. Shift the other foot out to a 45-degree angle. Come down into the squat. And inhale. And exhale. Thinking about your upper body is just going up and down. So I'm not, coming way out in front and moving. Everything's just kind of, this motion. So again, you're practicing your squats on a mini level here. I can feel a little bit of stretch in my front thigh as it extends up and comes down. All right, and come down and switch direction. And one more time around. And come up with the inhale, bring the foot back in, exhale. So staying in this wide position, we're going to do yin legs. Whew, warming up here. With yin legs, we want the feet out slightly this way, so we're really emphasizing the inner part of the legs, which is where the yin nourishing meridians are. And with the inhale, we're going to come down and pulling up and exhale. And then down, in. The yin meridians are associated with the nourishing fluid qualities of the body, and kidney is one of these meridians, which begins on the bottom of the foot, the feet, and is associated with, I guess they call it the waterworks. So we're imagining pulling up nourishing chi from the earth through that point on the foot, up through the inner parts of the legs, into the lower abdomen, into the kidneys. It's very good for reproductive health. Again, watching the back, so I'm not bending over at the low back. I'm keeping my back straight. I'm bending mostly at the hip and at the knees. And one more. Nice inhale. And exhale. We'll stay in wide horse stance. I'm going to bring my feet in a little bit more so they're more parallel here. And we're going to do shooting the hawk. Just another good squat move. And being really aware of when you're coming up from the squat, you're still kind of sinking into a slight knee bend and really stabilizing your core before you do the upper body portion of this. So we'll come down to inhale. So we're picking up a bow and then dropping in and then extending the arms out. Keep your shoulders down. Open up the front of the chest and then release. Inhale, pushing up through the heels to elevate your body. Drop down. Exhale, extend. Down, in. Drop down, exhale. And keeping the back neutral or straight. It's not to say you're not going to feel your quadriceps at all when you're doing these, because I'm certainly feeling that, but we're not relying on them for the propulsion, as it were. And one more. And release, inhale, and exhale. And we did a lot with our leg muscles here, so let's just do a couple moves to stretch them out. Just going to inhale, stretch up through the hands and the arms and the low back, hinge at the hips, and come down. And just relax into this, let the hamstrings open. And push down through the heels, bring yourself up. We'll do that one more time. And down. A little switch side to side. Just relax into this pose. And come up. And exhale. Get your hair out of your face. So there you have it. That's your squatting qigong for the day. And hopefully your legs are not now rubber and wobbly. Rubber legs, that's what we used to call them.
Something I realized when I was doing them off set with you, not only did it make a difference if I was leaning forward or back towards the heels where I was, but the pelvis. If the pelvis is slightly, is level, feels like it's posteriorly tipped for me because I'm always anteriorly tipped. Right. But when the pelvis is level, or even slightly posteriorly tipped, the glutes engage much more. Yeah. Even if I'm leaning back towards my heels, if I tip the pelvis this way, the glutes are offline. Right, yeah. And as soon as I bring it back this way, now I'm pushing up with the glutes. Yeah. And so when I deliberately really tip the pelvis back, then, man, I can really feel that. And it pulls on that area of my back where I'm tight, where I've had that injury. Right. So that's something to pay attention to, is where your pelvis is. Yeah. Or where my pelvis is. I'll pay attention to anyway. Anyway, yeah, and I've noticed that too for myself, that little shift, and I didn't bring it up, one, because I forgot, but two, also because we are all different, and some people are already overly posteriorly tipped. I don't want to just give that as a tip. It's right. Really very individual, but yes, that is definitely something you can play with, because, yeah, I found that as well. Yeah. Well, before we wrap up the show, you want to do a shameless plug for your classes and your labs and anything you got in the works? Yeah. That's what I've got in the works. So I've
sprinkled the calendar with different movement opportunities. The alignment basics is the one I recommend everybody start with, just to kind of get the grounding for where your body is relative to the alignment markers that we look for, so that when you move, you know what you're moving. And then I have some other ones about healthy feet and desk, neck, and shoulders, and I'll be adding more, kind of hitting different body parts in common.
Now, how can they find this calendar?
So if you go to posturingforhealth.com/classes, they're listed there. Calendar's there. You just click, you reserve your spot, and then you're in.
And the classes are free?
The classes are not free.
Oh, I messed that one up.
Yeah. They're $20, but you can sign up for 4 at a time, like a class card, and that's $65.
Okay, that's a deal.
Yeah.
That's a deal. Tell your
Yeah,
friends.
and they're small, they're labs, so there's no more than 3 or 4 people. And so it's a class, but it's kind of almost
One-on-one.
private, yeah. So you'll get a little bit more attention when you have, questions and you're trying to figure out what the heck I'm talking about. And where are your kneecaps? Well, I have time to show you. So.
Awesome. We will close with today's thought of the day, which comes from our, in New Holland, there's a little restaurant there called the Squire Side Cafe. And they had words of wisdom out on the marquee, and I had to share them. So, you ready? Without ice cream, there would be gloom and chaos. Well, that's something to pay attention. It's absolutely. I think the UN should pay attention to that. I think if the governments around the world would just give everybody ice cream, there would be world peace. One chocolate mint scoop at a time.
Coffee's my favorite.
And then there's that. Speaking of coffee,
Yep.
We'll see you Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. Be there, be square. Until then, stay out of the news.
Yep. Have a great weekend.